I have told and gave different things considering my story in bits and pieces, not in a whole. And I know in bits and pieces, I know those things were actually used to get me, not only physically, but also in the spiritual realm. And you want to know why I do it? I do it to help people. I do it to let people know that they're not alone. Not only the people that it's happening to, also the enemy. People who can consider themselves the enemy, because for one, I don't have enemies. But there are people who make themselves enemies, not only of me, of other people as well. With that being said, I tell it because my story is not like a lot of people, but there are others out there with similar stories. And it has bad, bad consequences for everybody involved. Really, whether you're doing it, the other people doing it, someone doing it, or the enemy is doing it. You get what I'm saying? I tell it basically as a teaching moment, hopefully, to where the person can get it and grasp it and understand it and take it and go with it and say, you know what? Here's an idea. I think I need to change. I think it's me. But a lot of times I have noticed that that is not what happens. Majority of the time, what I have witnessed and encountered in my entire life is that instead of the person taking it as something, as someone trying to help them and give them knowledge upon so that they can become better, they become even more bitter. And they become even more so the fact they become angry and they go against the person and try to do all these things and unnatural things and even get worse and worse and worse. And God has warned them over and over and over and over and over and over and over multiple times. Why? Because God grants people mercy and grace. Now, I'm going to tell you like this. There are a lot of people, a lot of Christians who call themselves Christians who do not pray for people who say that they're the enemy, who do not pray. But you know what? I do. Because why? I know what it's like to be in the darkness. Even though a lot of people pretend like they don't know what it's like with what they got with God. See, I remember. I remember being in those dark places and spaces. I remember being in that pit, in that darkness, and having no one or nothing, and having nowhere to go and no one to run to but Him. I remember a lot. I remember what it felt like in that abyss, in that darkness, and feeling the emptiness, the void, the nothingness. In here. And there was nothing in this life that I could have done that could have changed it. Nothing could have filled that void. No alcohol, no drugs, no man, no nothing. Nothing could fill that appetite. That there, and technically, I wouldn't even call it an appetite because it was nothing. It was an emptiness. That's the only way I can describe it, an emptiness. But the funny thing about it is I knew what it was, but I just didn't know how to attain it. I didn't know. I didn't know how to go about getting it. So that's why I tell my story. So there are people out there who has that void and they don't, and even if they don't know what it is, because a lot of people don't. See, I did. Because I ran into it 20 some, almost 30 years prior. I knew what that void was. And I'm going to tell you what it is. It's the Lord. It's Jesus. That's the emptiness. That's the missing pieces, the missing link in here. The emptiness that you have been feeling. You are without. You don't have that in you. What you feel is the darkness all around you. What it's like to be without the presence of God. And that is the worst thing that you could ever feel. Because when you have the Lord within you, it's the opposite of that. You feel the peace, you feel the joy, you feel everything that is the absence of that void, that emptiness. Because not only is it emptiness, honestly, it's kind of undescribable. It's like a fear. And not only a fear, it's not a regular fear though, but it's an emptiness that I cannot even explain and a void. And honestly, I don't think I have words for it. Maybe somebody else can explain it because I don't. I can't explain it. But it's to me, I know it's like, I know God is, it's like, God is not there in that place. And that's why I knew what it was. And I knew what was missing in my life because I was running from the Lord. A lot of people did not know that, but I was running from Him. And I knew what it was like to be in His presence versus without. And without Him, there was darkness. There was no light. There was no light. There was no presence. There was no joy. There was no nothing, 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 nothing. And I don't know how to explain it. If there's anybody else who's been there, and I know there's other people out there, they probably just don't know. They haven't told anybody, because a lot of times people are not going to believe you, because this feeling that you get, and it's not a physical place, it is a spiritual place. It is a pit that they put you in, and it is a spiritual place. So I tell people, because why, I don't want nobody, even the ones who cause evil, they would not survive this place that they even wished upon people, that they even, a lot of these people cast spells upon people in order for the demons to even do things and take people to these places and all these kind of things. They wouldn't survive such place. They wouldn't survive such emptiness, such darkness. The same thing they wanted upon somebody else, the same thing, the same thing. They literally cast upon somebody else and wanted somebody else to go in that deep hole, that deep void, that deep thing. And they sat there wishing that they were conjuring these spirits and these demons and all this kind of stuff to go after this person, all these people, and all these things. And let me tell you something, it can happen multiple ways, but I'm talking about this way in particular. They would not survive that type of torture, that type of mental strain, that type of mental, and I don't even know what would be the right word physically to call it, because you have these demonic spirits coming after you mentally, physically, and spiritually, three different ways. They wouldn't survive. So that's why I tell it. I tell my story.